Hello, I'm Dr. Carl, and I haven't made a logomism video in a while, and part of the reason for that is I've been so busy making videos for my other YouTube channel, Journeys with Dr. Carl, in which I make the same video about Tbilisi in many different languages. However, today I wanted to discuss the Men's Rights Manifesto of Newsofx.com. Newsofx is a men's rights group in India, and the manifesto was written by Vivet Singh, and I must say it's a fabulous document. As many of you know, I am working on getting a global treaty on men's rights to complement, not replace, the already fabulous one for women's rights, which was written back in the 1970s. What I'm trying to get is a convention on the elimination of all forms of discrimination against men, or Saddam, to go along with the already existing Saddah. Any rate, this manifesto basically mentions all the main points mentioned in Saddam, all the areas in which males uniquely or disproportionately face discrimination or violence or certain issues, or areas in which men's rights are being ignored even if women suffer more in those areas. And there are certainly areas in which women have it worse around the world, and that's just as wrong because we must have equality. Any rate, as always, I will start with the positives. There are several points that this manifesto mentions that really need to be emphasized. The first one is, and in fact this is the title of chapter 7 of this manifesto, is Chivalry is Misandry. I always point to the fact that there have been advantages to being female throughout history. One of them is chivalry. Some people say, well, that's just benevolent sexism towards women. No, it's sexism towards men. And this isn't just ladies first or trivial matters like holding a door open or something. It gets into literal life and death situations like priority space on a lifeboat, or anytime there's a hostage situation, the female hostages are negotiated for before the male ones. So this must really be emphasized. In part of this, they mentioned what is probably one of the most unholy alliances in political, social spheres in this day and age, or even throughout the whole of history. Many traditionalists are in sort of an uneasy, unofficial alliance with feminists because in many ways both put women first, gynocentrism. I don't need to explain how feminists do that, and I just explained how traditionalists do that. Another area in which these two are often in an uneasy alliance is, sadly, they're both very uptight with sexuality, whereas modern human society should be more open with sexuality. And this manifesto makes a great point about this, and it's in one of the later chapters. They even talk about chapter 14, the sex Gestapo, that in many ways, many treat male heterosexuality almost as if it were a crime, or at least something to be guarded very carefully. And this manifesto does a great job discussing that. One ways in which this has manifested itself is the prostitution law in Sweden, sexköpslagen, and I plan to make a video about that soon as well, which has since been copied in several other countries. Under this law, it's illegal to buy sex but not sell it. Now, theoretically, a woman who buys sex or a gay man who buys sex from another man is just as much in violation of the law. However, I know of no case in Sweden of a prosecution of that, and we all know that that was not the intent. One other thing that this manifesto specifically mentions, which is fabulous, is that many people, thankfully not everywhere and thankfully not everyone, but there are too many people who think that a wedding is all about a bride and the groom almost doesn't matter. That is blatantly unfair, blatantly sexist, completely illogical, and highly wrong, and is really a despicable viewpoint. How can anyone not think that a wedding should be equally about a bride and a groom? At any rate, it also mentions some of the obvious major ones, like bringing an end to male genital mutilation. Nobody's genitals, male or female, should ever be cut. Also, it mentions military service requirements, which I frequently call the glorified national sexist enslavement of young men. And those are basically the main positives that I would mention. Now for a few negatives. One thing, the tone was a bit too angry. I get the frustration. There are moments I feel this frustration. I mean, feminists say they want equality. Our reaction is that is a fantastic idea. Let's have it. And then when we mention these men's issues, many of them get angry with us or call us horrible things. So there's a lot of frustration out there. How do people not see this as blatant discrimination, that all we're asking for is equality? The very thing the whole society, or most of it at least, claims to want. Also, while it mentioned the major points, I don't think it laid it out in a good or logical order. And some of the chapters kind of rambled a bit, blended together a little bit. Each of these points should have been laid out more distinctly, and each of the chapters sort of had with clear breaks to them. But all in all, a fabulous manifesto, and I recommend that everyone read it. And let's all, men and women, and yes, even feminists and men's rights advocates, let's all work together towards general equality. I'm Dr. Carl. Enjoy.